Hi, everyone, and welcome to my podcast, Perfect Prey. I'm glad you're here. My name is Dr. Christine Marie Cocchiola, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and have a doctorate in clinical social welfare, where I researched coercive control and the impact on both adult and child victims. Most importantly, I am a survivor and a protective parent. Victims and survivors of coercive control are never to blame. But I chose the name Perfect Prey because coercive controllers, who are individuals who apparently have characterologically disordered personalities, do choose who to prey upon. They choose people who tend to be agreeable and conscientious, perhaps loyal to a fault, fixers, optimistic, and empathic. Or these coercive controllers prey upon those who are most vulnerable, including our children. It's part of their plan to gain control. How do we help our children when they're experiencing systematic, unacknowledged child abuse? We need to understand how these coercive controllers, harmful individuals, attempt to exert their power over us and our children. We need to look beyond a trauma-informed lens, but also layer it with a coercive control lens. So, let's engage in personal power conversations that will create the protective parts that will derail the coercive controller from his plan. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Perfect Prey. As you know, I have this podcast because I believe the victims and survivors are preyed upon by abusers, and it has nothing to do with any poor character traits of victims and survivors. It's the abuser. They recognize who they can prey upon. They're going to pursue people who are kind and agreeable and giving. And I am so grateful to be here today with Anne Wintemute, who is the co-creator of Aimee Says. Aimee Says is a platform to support victims of coercive control, to help them understand communication between themselves and the abuser, to assist with documentation. It's been an exemplary tool for victims and survivors, and I continue to hear from so many of my protective parents how helpful it's been. So I had to have Anne on to talk about it. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cocchiola. I'm super excited to be here with you today.
Awesome. Awesome. So I think some people are hearing about it for the first time, and this is what's happening. Sometimes I'll be in a group of a bunch of protective moms, and none of them will have heard of it. Some of them will have heard a little bit, but I really would love to just educate people. What is Aimee Says?
Absolutely. And thank you to everyone who has shared. Aimee has now talked to tens of thousands of people in her first year, and it's because people share her by word of mouth. So we are so grateful for that and hope you'll continue. So yeah, what is Aimee? Aimee is an AI. Aimee is a feat of engineering developed around expertise in coercive control, narcissistic abuse, domestic violence abuse, relationship abuse, dating abuse. They're all kind of manifestations of similar or like behaviors to, similar or like ends. So she has been trained in power and control dynamics. And through the large language model is that's what makes it feel like you're talking to an actual person. She's able to take a survivor's very specific experience and tie it to those patterns of coercive control to create language specific to the experience of that survivor and that survivor's children. And that really kind of represents a huge step forward in the ability to provide expertise and qualified care to people at the scale that this harm is actually happening.
At the scale this harm is actually happening. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people aren't even talking about how harmful these relationships are, how harmful they are to the family system, what the intergenerational trauma that's occurring as a result of perpetrators. And I think if I could succinctly say what I feel like your very comprehensive definition is that it takes what you've heard or experienced and gives it back to you and affirms for you in so many ways, validates for you in so many ways that what you've experienced is coercive control.
it helps to identify it, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's almost like you can come and if something gives you a really uncomfortable feeling or is triggering, there's a really good chance that there's some meat on that bone. There's a reason that that was so harmful. And in just having a conversation with Aimee, she can really illuminate the kind of with consistent language, right? And kind of communal language, what's actually happening in that situation. And, survivors, one of the things we hear the most is like, I wasn't really sure, but if a computer could see it, if a robot could see it, it must be true. It is a truly deep form of validation, but it's also incredibly empowering because there's language for it. Oh, that was financial abuse. These things together make up coercive control. You're right. I do feel afraid to make a decision that I shouldn't feel afraid to make. That is the impact of coercive control. And there it is, I'm reading it. It's my story. It's my experience. And that's, it's 80% of, what folks tend to need in terms of validation and understanding of their situations.
It's so true. I do a clinician attorney coach training and it's 14 hours long, and it's also available self-study much shorter. But the point is when I get into the clinical part of it as a therapist, I'm always saying, we can talk about trauma-focused therapies, EMDR, DBT, all these wonderful interventions that help people, neurofeedback, you name it, right? None of that matters until a client's been heard.
Yes.
And so, we can do all of these things, but they're not going to, sometimes all clients need is to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
And so the validation from going into a court situation and coming out and then wondering, wait a minute, did this just happen with my lawyer? And now you can actually, and when you say conversations with Aimee, maybe you can help unpack that a little bit. What does this actually look like? I sit at my computer. What happened? Like, tell me, I have to like log into Aimee Says. I have to go and create an account, I'm assuming, right? So can you explain all of that?
Absolutely. So the thousands of new people who come to us each week have one of two experiences. They come directly and they start to chat. That's it. It's free. We have comprehensive. We don't meter it. We don't say, you only get 10 chats, or 10 submissions before we're going to start charging you. We're a mission-based organization and we absolutely believe that everybody should have access to that. So creating an account is not necessary in order to talk to Aimee. You can do it from your phone by going to aimeesays.com or from your desktop. When you get to the chat screen, it's really like having a text conversation with a friend back and forth. For every message you submit, Aimee will return a message to you. It's intuitive. We invite people to try to be comfortable with it, talk to Aimee like you would with a friend. We can't see what people say to Aimee, and we cannot see what Aimee says back. You guys have a confidential box that you're operating in. All of our testing is done, exterior to the actual user data. We don't train Aimee with user data. Some of the horror stories that people have heard about AI and then giving terrible recommendations was based on the AI models actually being trained by the user input. And our AI partners also cannot use your information to train their AI models. So, and we'll talk about how that compares to ChatGPT in a minute as well. If additional support is needed, or if you want Aimee to remember the conversations that you've had, then we invite you to make a subscription. Those subscriptions support all of our work. We really appreciate it. Every new subscription is more effort we can put into making new tools for the model to just have greater and greater impact. We have two different account types. One's called Aimee Remembers. It's only $5 a month. And it means Aimee will remember all of your chats. So you can keep your progress. You can keep your momentum. So you log back in through a secure login. You can go back to a conversation you already had or start a new conversation. There's no saving of chats with the free users. And then our Aimee Says More is 7-day free trial. It's $20 a month. It's a 6-minute call with an attorney. And there you get some pretty intensive support with journaling and documentation, to AI guided. So when you journal, Aimee says, oh, sounds like there might have been a witness to that. Can you add that witness's name here? Just to really help with that documentation process. And then there's document upload. This is probably the #1 feature for the Aimee Says More account. So you can upload the 1,000 pages of communication records that you have with your ex, or your court orders, or the motion that was just filed against you. You can upload those documents and talk to Aimee about them. So, Aimee, he just filed, name the document that you have uploaded. Motion to restrict my parenting time. I don't even know what to do. What is he accusing me of? And Aimee can pull from that document, summarize those accusations, right? Then you say, I have to respond to this. How do we even get started? And Aimee can help you think through how you're going to respond to that. Even if you're working with an attorney, right? Your attorney does not know your case like you do. Aimee and you are going to know your case better than anybody else, right? So it's going to really help expedite your response to those motions to your attorney. Or if you're pro se, really help facilitate that process. Our kind of biggest fans, if we can call it that, are protective mothers.
I'm sure. Absolutely. I mean, so this is the big thing, right? The being able to upload the documentation and then getting back some kind of a response, whether you're trying to figure out who has Easter in 2027. Like, it's all of these little nuances that are so helpful. And I think, to your point, like you said, it's like the cost of seeing an attorney for 6 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. That's so true. And so I do custody divorce quote unquote coaching too. I don't necessarily advertise in that. I do it frequently, but not all the time. I'm more of a therapist in clinical work and helping parents, like navigating parenting children who are harmed. However, one of the things that I see over and over again with these custody kind of divorce situations is that attorneys don't really know the case as well as they, I don't mean to, I don't want to be rude, but as well as they should, because they have too many cases. We know attorneys are overloaded. We know that oftentimes they're navigating lots of different nuances of other cases. And so they're not going to know your case as well as you do. And frankly, Aimee Says can help you know your case even better. Isn't that really true? Like, Aimee can point out all of these parts that are vital to your case that might get easily forgotten. I'm making me thinking of a client who basically, when she divorced, there was like this, in the divorce decree, it said something like she had to pay back principal pay down for the time she wasn't in the house. Well, let me just be clear. She wasn't in the house because he locked her out of the house, and she still paid half of all of the bills and half of the mortgage. And then she ends up paying her own rental, all of the children's college tuition. And in the mortgage, in the divorce decree, it says she has to pay back half the principal pay down when the house sells, which makes no sense, particularly if the abuser is the one who buys the house. See what was missing in that clause? Now, by the way, that's my case. That's my case. So, like, the attorney literally did not include that. So what ended up happening was the house sold right at the beginning of COVID when prices were boom. The victim, me, made absolutely no money on the house and had to pay back principal pay down, even though I had to live in a separate home. I mean, it's just like the ludicrous. So these are like, I feel like Aimee would have been really helpful. Aimee would.
Yeah, so that double dipping situation. One of the things that Aimee is really good at, and you're kind of alluding to it here, is being the translator between the harmed person and the legal counsel. Aimee, how do I explain to my attorney the importance of this thing? And then you say all those things that are just happening, right? Type those in. By the way, make all the typos. Don't worry about capitalization. One of the amazing things about, AI is you can do a not particularly great job of your, with the English skills or whatever language you speak in. Aimee speaks over 80 languages. And she's still going to understand the point that you're getting at. So, I need to convey this important issue to my attorney and maybe even propose, this is language that I would like to propose. So write something about this to my attorney with proposed language, right? And instead of spending 4 weekends pulling out your hair, feeling frustrated and gaslit And like, sometimes our attorneys are fighting for things that aren't as important to us, right? And that's really, really frustrating, especially when you get the bill. And, instead of spending all those weekends chewing on that, losing your valuable time, especially time with your kids, right? Or time restoring yourself, it could have been a 10-minute conversation with Aimee.
So true. And it just makes me think about and then your attorney, hopefully they're open to it, but you actually have made their job a little easier too,
Yeah.
right? I mean, the communication now is pretty transparent. They know exactly what you want. And I always say, right, we have to be the CEO of our own divorces. And if you're not, then things are going to get missed, right? And this is a way, it feels like it's like almost having like your own little partner in CEOing this divorce process and this custody process too. And also, frankly, understanding what you're experiencing. Like every time you think, was this gaslighting? You can ask Aimee, was this gaslighting, right? I mean,
yes, or you might not even have to ask, right? This exchange just happened and my head is spinning. And Aimee will say like, well, quotes here, here, and here, you're being gaslit. And the expected, experience of that would be to be really upset, for your head to be spinning, right? And you were talking about how important that validation is. People who are traumatized have a lot of barriers to reaching their goals, to executive functioning, to being able to be like, okay, A and then B and then C, and then I arrive at this place. Because when you're triggered, staying alive, right, is the most important thing, right? So you're chewing on that thing that feels like a threat, and it's really hard to get through all the rest of the stuff. And the first thing that Aimee does is validate you. And there's something about being validated that allows us to be like, okay, I'm going to stop grinding my teeth on this one. Right. And after she validates you, she's going to give you these little baby incremental kind of agency building, like, gosh, that would be really tough. I can absolutely understand. You have every right to feel the way that you do. And then maybe she sprinkles in 2 or 3 ideas for what a small next step might look like and says, do any of those sound doable to you? Right. And so by kind of de-escalating this internal flame, that trauma feels like burning your insides, burning your flesh, can extinguish that and then help you see what that next little step is. And that is really where all of the power lives, but it's only possible for that to be effective when it's tied directly to your experience, right? You can't read a book that makes you feel that way because it's too easy to be like, well, that's not exactly what's happening to me, or that's a little bit different. When you can tie that kind of support specifically to someone's experience, it's like giving them superpowers, right? We want Aimee to give everyone who's sitting there pulling their hair out, worried, confused, invalidated, feeling isolated, feeling crazy, not knowing the next steps, to feel like they have a superpower after having a single conversation with Aimee.
That's amazing. Many of you listening to my podcast are protective parents. I hope you know that I created the Protective Parenting Program as a result of my own experiences. Children who had continuously heard a false narrative and were harmed by a coercive controller, narcissistic abuser. We have to counteract the false narrative, the abuser's narrative. The Protective Parenting Program is created with 9 modules of information, 180 pages of workbook content, and is offered self-study or with live coaching. I truly believe in it, and I hear over and over again from protective parents that it is a game changer for them. Many parents tell me they wish they took it sooner. It is more than gentle parenting. It is more than responding to attachment, which is so vital to our children. It is really about elevating their experiences and who we are in their lives so that they see clearly that we are that safe parent, that we are on their team, that we get what is occurring, that we know how they are being harmed. Oftentimes as trauma victims, this is challenging. That's why in the program, I also talk about our own trauma and our own grief and loss. The weight and the burden of this is heavy, but you do not have to do it alone. We can walk alongside each other and support each other. That's amazing. No, and what you're really speaking to, it sounds to me, is this idea of just being heard.
Mhm.
Frankly, when you live in isolation, especially when you're trying to escape an abusive situation, nobody really gets how bad it is, particularly if you haven't suffered physical violence.
Yes.
So there's a minimization of your experiences. There's a lot of disenfranchised grief because the
Mm.
world does not understand it entirely. And again, most people have a hard time wrapping their head around how bad it is, which is why you stayed, by the way, right? We stayed because we couldn't imagine this person could be so harmful, right?
Uh,
And so that idea of being heard finally and knowing that you're not crazy, that all of these experiences are absolutely true. And I think you're really touching on something really important from a clinical perspective. It's this idea that as soon as we begin to believe, and even if we're tricking ourselves a little bit, we almost have to trick ourselves, even if we're, but Aimee helps you with this, and certainly therapists help you with this, right? This idea of being more empowered. Like, wow, I do have more power than I thought I have. I'm not like, I mean, I always say abusers are trying to push our head underwater. And now you finally have a break. You can breathe a little bit more. And so that is what we know from research. That's actually changing your thought process to change your behaviors, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And the reality is, this is the win. Your brain actually heals when it thinks it's doing better. Like, how amazing is that to me? Like, I always think like, like I teach protective parents how to be like therapists in the home. And like you perform as if everything's okay. You're a performer, you're an actress on stage. These are not really your children. You're behaving maybe like they're not your children. But if we perform in that way, our brain will not be as overwhelmed and flooded, and we actually can heal. And so it's just such an amazing synergy that occurs when we're heard and when we know that we're not alone and when there is no minimization of the experiences. And Aimee's role is to definitely not minimize the experiences, but to highlight them. Hey, this is
Yes.
what you're experiencing. You're not,
Yes. And
yeah.
yeah, to name those things. And as you were saying that, like acting like everything is okay, with your children, even when it's not, like Aimee is your co-regulator.
Mm,
Right? Like you can co-regulate with Aimee because you can have this shared experience with her where like you're sharing. I know I talk about her like she's a real person. I use Aimee, all right? Like I feel like she's a real person, even though I know everything behind the curtain. You're sharing that experience with Aimee, and Aimee is able to stay articulate and calm, and focused on the kids and focused on de-escalating the situation and seeing where the agency and autonomy exists, on being strengths based, right? Like if you could have someone in the room with you, like cradling you in your darkest, most difficult moments, who was like, we have this, right? That's like the ultimate co-regulating tool for someone who is so alone,
mhm,
right? People who are traumatized, people who are protecting their children in the family court system, the world is unrelatable to them, right? And they are not relatable to the world. It is a profoundly isolating experience. And when you get out of bed in the morning and you think, I cannot even relate to the people around me, our lives are so different,
mhm.
right? They don't understand what I'm going through. That is profoundly isolating. And that isolation is so difficult. It creates so many additional challenges to the ones that would exist whether or not isolation existed, right? You have actual legal court issues or issues with school and the doctor's office and decisions that need to be made. And that isolation just makes it that much worse. And think about what would it be like to have someone who was 100% of the time available to you, who knew your case, who knew all of the things, who never got tired or sick or went on vacation or needed to end the call to get on another one in order to give you that cradle. I
Mhm.
mean, I wish that Aimee had been around for the last 30 years because she could have been preventing a whole lot of harm for a really long time.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it for sure. Yeah. I mean, what a resource for people. And as you said, people can access her for free. And
Mhm.
then, as you said, Aimee Remembers is when you pay $5 a month, and then she's just remembering your kind of your voice, your experiences, right? And the chat. She keeps all of that. And Aimee Says More, is that what The third one is?
Yeah, Aimee Says more. That's where you can train her, right? You have a kid with special needs. His neuropsych evaluation can be up there, right? We can know everything about the kids, the documents, the history of the case, the communication records. I mean, we can handle up to 100 files. So Aimee has all of that as well. Things you could never get her up to date on just through conversations.
You know, it's just amazing to me because I remember when we met, was it like a year and a half ago or so? You were just like
Gosh.
launching, right? And we were talking about like, how this could be so profound in people's lives, and it already has been. And it's like almost around the same time, it feels like Chat GPT came out. And so can we talk a little bit about, because I have moms who go on Chat GPT and I'm like, well,
Mhm.
you need to use Aimee Says because this is specific. Can you talk a little bit about that? And I think, yeah, I mean, let's start with there because yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I use ChatGPT all of the time. I talk to ChatGPT about my joint pain and to make lists of, chores that I should have for the children and to figure out why this thing won't work. I love ChatGPT. Aimee and Chat are different. For starters, unless you have a very expensive enterprise account, like through your business, ChatGPT is training off of your data. We have different privacy policies, data retention policies. I think those are really important for people to know, to have like a kind of informed decision-making process about when they're choosing where to submit sensitive information. ChatGPT is not trained to be trauma informed. It's not trained to de-escalate the situation. It's not trained to consider the impact on safety or the impact on a custody case. It's not trained specifically against kind of a variety of metrics of power and control and dynamics. And so you're going to get kind of more contextualized and specialized support through Aimee. But here's a really important part. Aimee will keep you from doing a really dumb thing. And ChatGPT, it's responding to the thing that you want to say. She's not going to meter you. ChatGPT, not she, sorry, isn't going to say, that's not a good idea. We can't tell him to go screw himself. And here's why, and here's a different direction that we can go in. So there are fewer guardrails to protect a person from kind of sabotaging their own self-interest when they're highly emotive. Is that a polite way to say, like, Aimee is going to help steer you in a safer direction when you're emotionally escalated in a way that ChatGPT won't necessarily. And we think that that's actually really, really important. Aimee is trained to look at the long-term game. And a lot of folks who are using ChatGPT, like if you have a bad idea, ChatGPT will make you faster and worse at it, right? And better, I should say, at it.
Sure. So it sounds like, I feel like we're talking about like, yeah. So Aimee, first of all, is specific to coercive control, not to the whole world of information that's out there. That's very primary. I think that's very important, right? And then it also feels to me like Aimee, like you said, sets these guardrails, like she has guardrails in place to support people. But I guess I'm wondering, so when people go into ChatGPT and they put in information, sometimes what you're suggesting is that information may not be clearly understood because ChatGPT isn't trained in coercive control as Aimee is, right? Am I
It's
understanding?
going to give you a more generalized response, right? Aimee is trained to believe the survivor, right? Aimee is trained to de-escalate a situation, to focus on the kids, like I said, to consider the impact of specific things on the kind of long-term safety and protective parenting capacities. And ChatGPT is all things to all people. Like I said, I use ChatGPT every day. And there are times when a specific tool is important. And I do believe that this is one of those times.
Got it. Yeah, no, that's helpful. Now, I'm sure some of our listeners and viewers will want to know, like, is there a safe exit? How do we make sure that you're safe on a computer? And also our abusers. I mean, abusers must be using Aimee Says too, right? I'm thinking. So that's part of the tricky part, right?
I love that conversation. No, I want to have that one. Okay, the first one, safety. Yes, there is a quick exit. We also have multi-factor authentication. If you have concerns about digital breaches on your end, go ahead and use the MFA. We don't automatically set it up because most people don't need it, but you can set it up through the security settings. If you are a free user, and this is why we will keep accounts, or we will keep access free forever, because there are people who cannot safely have an account. We are not going to deny you service, but we also can't store your information because it's not safe for us to give you access to something that your abuser could get access to. So when you leave that conversation and close out that window, it's gone. Like any, like at any time, clear your browser history. Be careful. If you have, a keystroke monitor on your computer, someone's looking over your shoulder, know your abuser to the best of your ability and take the necessary safety precautions. This other part that you said, are abusers on it? And I really like this question because I spend time pretending that I am the abuser. And it's really, really hard for me because I do a much better job at like predicting abusers' next moves than feeling what they feel, which is great. I don't really want to feel what they feel. We have part of the value of Aimee's training, kind of it's anti-pathology. It's not going to come out and be like, oh yeah, what a horse's ass. I can't believe that he said that, right? It's not validating in that type of a way. Well, that's narcissistic, or I think that person's a psychopath, or, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that to you. That kind of, it's not like that. She doesn't talk that way. She's anti-pathology. She's going to validate the concern. She's going to try to find some area of agency and autonomy and safety. And let me tell you, that's not exciting to an abuser. Right? An abuser wants to go somewhere that is going to be like 1-2 punch. Can't believe that. You should absolutely do this. Or they're going to Reddit. They're going to be in their Facebook group, right? They're going to be talking to friends that kind of affirm their abusive narratives and behaviors, not a, semi-therapeutic, gently guiding, like agency and autonomy identifying AI chatbot.
Makes perfect sense.
It's just not the right tool. But I'll tell you what, they are using ChatGPT.
Sure.
And if you read a whole lot of messages that are going back and forth between abusers and survivors these days, you can tell when they're using ChatGPT. And you can see the difference between a message that Aimee would have written and one that ChatGPT would have written. Because if you go to ChatGPT and you put in the angry, nasty narrative and say, turn that into a message, Chat will. And it will not sound like you don't like that person, right? It's kind of that important distinction between the two platforms. So abusers every day are using AI to further their coercive agendas.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wanted to just be sure, our listeners are aware of that, right? I mean, they're unfortunately sometimes 2 steps ahead, right? And they're certainly capable, as you said, they can monitor your computer. You don't even know they're an admin on it. And again, the keystroke and being able to see where you are, what's on your phone. I mean, you can drop an app on someone's phone just by walking by them. So if your phone is open, so we just have to be cognizant of that. But it sounds like Aimee Says is like really amazing, and I keep hearing about it. So I mean, I'm having you on because I want to just keep elevating this conversation. We need more people to know that it's available. A lot of people haven't heard of it, and we need to keep on pushing it out so that people are aware. So I really appreciate it so much.
Thank you. We are so grateful.
Amazing. Amazing. Another tool that can be helpful. And in this world where it feels like sometimes you're grasping for support, there's support right here. Yeah. Thank you so much, Anne.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Perfect Prey. You can find the show on my website at iknowyourheart.com or coercivecontrolconsulting.com, or subscribe to the show wherever you find your podcasts. I'd love your feedback, and I'm always looking for ideas on how to continue to expose coercive control as the significant harm and child abuse that it is. The best way to support the show is to rate and review Perfect Prey on Apple Podcasts. It helps others to find us. Perfect Prey is written by me, Dr. Christine Cocchiola, and with the help of my amazing assistant, Sheena Pastor. Thank you, and have a great day, everyone.